Okay, what I love about this, Inez, is I get to catch up with you and everyone gets to eavesdrop on our catch-up session.
And you know what? This is the coolest thing. The last time I saw you was in person in Miami. So this
Yes.
is awesome.
Yes, yes. And what I love about you, Ines, and I'm going to introduce you to everyone who's eavesdropping to the live show, or what I like to call is just a conversation with Coach Deb. What I love is that you are a true pioneer in real estate, in business. We'll talk a little bit about how you've kind of evolved from being a realtor to what you're doing now, where it's not direct with the clients, but you're still getting leads like you were back then. I think in 2006-ish is when I met you, and you were reporting getting 50% of your leads from blogging, from YouTube, from videos, from your social media. And everyone made fun of you. So we're going to talk a little bit about that to encourage everyone who is getting online and doing this and going, does it really work? And is it just a fad? And I'm still, I think until this year, Inez, I think finally the fad question is going away. But even last year, 2019, at the end of the year, people were asking, is it still worth it to go on YouTube? Is it too late? And that's what I'm trying to convince people, my clients, my friends, family. So you're going to help me do that. And then we're going to catch up and everyone gets to just eavesdrop. And now you're reporting over 80% of your leads are coming from social media, YouTube, your blog. And her blog is Miamism.com. She is one of those people who are doing it right. I love what you're doing. I met Ines, and I'm bringing you, I want you to introduce yourself to Ines in the chat. Go ahead, tell me where you're coming from. If you're a realtor, let me know. If you have any questions, she is willing to share it all. And I'm going to try to pull out all of her secrets and hacks and things that she's done. But true pioneer, I met her originally, I think in 2006, you can correct me if you remember a different date, but we were selected as the judges in an Active Rain realtor contest where any realtor who was a blogger, who started a blog, submitted their blog, and we voted her as number one. So she won. She corrects me and says that she actually didn't win the contest, but I'm like, yes, you do. You did win. We have a YouTube video back in 2006 to prove that you won because we selected it. And I remember the people like in the contest that won, I was like, no, they're not doing it right. They're just, a lot of it is text, a lot of it is words. So what I want to share, those of you who are eavesdropping and watching the show and participating, is how Ines did it right with her Miamism.com blog. She truly branded herself. We'll talk about the mojitos branding as well, because it's super fun blog. She wasn't this serious, ultra professional, like I'm just here to talk about real estate. So let's talk a little bit about that. If you can just introduce yourself to the audience, let them know what your background is, what you did in the past, and where you are today. Ines, and thanks. Welcome to the show or this conversation.
Thank you. Thank you. That was like the coolest introduction I've ever had. So thank you for it. So it all started. I have a bachelor's in architecture. So I got into real estate super organically. So I think everything in my life happens like that. You know, I kind of listen to cues and I take them on. So I started with commercial property management. My husband and I got our licenses actually at the end of 2004. And we started marketing ourselves like we were taught in real estate school. So it was our name. It was all about me and what I have to offer and how many designations I have. And it was all me. And it just didn't feel natural. Now, we had that contest in Active Rain, which was really cool. The story was I was getting a headshot done. My photographer at the time said to me, Ines, have you heard of blogging? And I went, what? How do you spell that? What is that? So I went home. I was spending, oh my God, Deb, I was spending thousands and thousands of money in traditional marketing, right? And I was getting the results. Now, my husband and I, as an architect and he's an accountant, we had money to spend. So we had a budget to get started as realtors, but we were spending a lot of money. When I went into blogging and started doing a little bit of research, Active Rain kind of popped up as the blogging, whatever platform, forum, whatever you want to call it at the time. And there was a contest. And I said, you know what, I'm going to jump into this contest. I didn't have a blog. It was whatever free something or other. I don't even remember what it was.
It might have been Blogspot.
It was Blogspot. It was totally Blogspot. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I was lucky enough because you got to choose a mentor, and I was lucky enough to have Paul Cheney be my mentor.
Oh,
Now,
yes. I know him.
Cheney is, I mean, he had an amazing book. At the time, it was, what was it called? Realty blogging. So he was my mentor. I was dead last in this competition. I was the one that was doing it the worst. I would get killed every week by the judges. Then to the point where I was kind of questioning myself, like, am I doing this right? If like everybody says that I'm doing it incorrectly. So my whole thing was, number one, Miamism. Where did that come from? It wasn't about me. It was about selling a lifestyle, a way of life, an ism, a philosophy. You know, Miami is so particular. We have so intricacies of how we live in this city, and I just wanted to feature that. You know, Miami is fun. So why am I going to be like the stiff behind a suit? That, you know, let me just show how much fun it is.
Right.
I think you'll see one blog post in there that I just wrote on the language of Miami. So there is such a thing called Miami English, by the way. So I have fun with it. Now, you were one of the first ones that validated what I was doing. And I can tell you, you know what, I can give credit to a lot of things of how things have happened organically and how I've had this intuitive marketing mind to make things work. But the validation you guys gave me at the time, actually, I think was what propelled me into continuing, because I was having tons of doubts. So I can tell you, like, I really thank you for doing what you guys did at the time, because it was exciting. You saw it. You saw the ism. You saw what Miamism stood for. It wasn't about me. It was about showing my voice, my accent, my mannerisms. You know, and it was the beauty of that was that, you know, as realtors, you have to always hunt for business. But it got to a point where people were just calling me and saying, just send me the listing agreement. Where do I sign?
Yeah.
It was that easy, you know, because of even the mojito reviews that we were doing, because they were seeing me in video. They were seeing what I was about. They were seeing that I was real, you know.
Yes.
Whatever you get here is me, is who I am. Then they felt comfortable with me. There was an automatic trust created from everything that I was creating. Now, one thing that I was doing that was crazy was giving a lot of my knowledge away. So because my niche is historic and architectural properties, I would say, you know, when you go into an architectural property, this is what you're looking for. These are the materials. Make sure you pay attention to this. So I was actually educating the consumer. So I was educating my client, which they appreciated, because if I'm willing to give away this information, that means I'm going to represent them in the long run. So the journey has been fun, and it continues.
Yeah. And then I want to talk a little bit about where you're at now and what you're doing, but I want to go back to a few things that you said that, again, you got it, the ism. Like when we saw that and we were judging that for the realtor competition, for the blogging, I was like, yes, and then there were a few other people that, you know, were kind of getting it, or they were sort of using video in there, but a lot of them was text only, and people just nod off, right? And now, granted, that was in the early days of using video, and you're using it right, but the ism, the mojito, the brand, right? And you also said that, I want to point this out for any realtor or any professional watching this, thinking about doing video, follow Ines's example where, and some of the things that you shared, you're like, people got to know I was real. This was me. So I think a lot of times when people get in front of the camera and I hit record, they're very stiff and they think they have to talk perfectly and professional, and right. Whereas others, they allow themselves to be imperfect. They allow the bloopers. They allow the realness, because that's what allows human beings to connect with one another. And any of the, oh my gosh, oh, I have an accent, oh, people are going to judge me, all of that is all mental roadblocks, right? It's all stuff that's in your head that's not true. And when people get to meet you, and they meet you with video first before they even meet you in person, they get to know you, like you, trust you through all of your blogs. And that's what you were doing. So then when they meet you in person, they're like, oh, she's exactly the same as in her video. And if you think about it, who wants to do business with some stiff character who's very, right? Like, No one, right? It's not real. It feels robotic. This is why we do business with humans, not robots, right? And that's what you did really, really well. The other thing too is what I try to parlay to people is that you become this star on this TV set, especially if you're doing YouTube videos. Like I have some people that watch the YouTube video on their TV. And if you're watching this, what I say in the future, if you're watching the replay of this interview, go ahead and drop that in the comments. If you are watching this on your big screen TV, I always hate this, Ines, because all of the flaws and all of the just goes really big and large. I'm like, watch on the mobile phone. We look way better that way. But it puts you in this star position. And that's what you did. That's what you did right. That's what you did really, really well. And every video that you would watch, it was entertaining. It was engaging. It was something that I looked forward to watching the next video, and I enjoyed every minute of it, as opposed to something that would put me to sleep and then have them click off. So let's talk a little bit about the entertainment factor, the branding that you did. Oh, and David is here. David Spiewak. He's one of the realtors. I love working with him. So, and David, I don't know if you were here when I just was mentioning your story. I didn't want to mention you without your permission, but David's a perfect example. And in some of the videos we talk about where I'm filming him, there was one that he allowed me with the bloopers, and he's like, I think it was describing, you can say it in the comments, David, but he was describing a place in San Diego, and he's like, oh, modern Earth. And I'm like, society. And I had planned to edit that out and give him a perfect video. And he's like, modern society. That's it. You're like a thesaurus there. And we kept it in because it was so real. It was so, it allowed people to connect with him. And he has recently gotten not only leads, but gotten clients, gotten listings. He said, I think it was yesterday. I don't know if you can announce this yet, David, but I did see a picture on one of your stories, so I think you can. But he said he sold one of the sexiest homes in his career. I think it was like $1.5 million here in San Diego. So it's, and one of the things too, I in editing David's videos, I'm like, oh, well, you said, or directing him, he goes, oh, no, that's how I speak. I'm like, okay, that's what we leave in, because it's him, it's who he is. And that's what you do, Ines, as well. It's your personality comes through, just like David. So David, be encouraged, because Ines is going to be your role model here.
So, and I'll take it on to that. Like, I just did a series of videos for a house that I'm selling in Fort Lauderdale, and it's a $4.5 million property. Mm-hmm. And we decided to do like a series of fun short videos because it's under construction. So the videographer starts filming me, and I say, we have to do a video on bloopers, because the stuff that comes out of my mouth is hilarious. Yes. And then there's times where I'm just laughing, and he's like, should I cut that out? No, I actually kind of like that. So I make up words as I go. I always say it's English as a second language. I don't know if I can still put that as an excuse, but it's okay. You're real. Like, so what I'm saying with blogging at the beginning that I did, it's like I would make grammatical errors, because people assume, oh, I don't like to write, so blogging is not for me. Mm-hmm. I hate writing. Mm-hmm. Writing's not my thing. So this is what I tell people all the time. It's your voice, is how you speak. Imagine you're sending an email to your favorite client. That's how you write a blog post. Yes. And then my husband would catch a spelling error or something like 2 weeks after it was live, and I would be embarrassed at first. I would be like, oh my God, I wrote that thing just sat there with those errors. And then later I was like, it's okay. Mm-hmm. And you know what I did? Instead of removing the error, I would just cross it and correct it. So it would make it even more real. Like, oh, I found this error. How embarrassing. But I would not delete the error. I would keep it.
That's it. That's important. And that's one of the strategies that internet marketing marketers do, is they'll send out emails, and they'll send it out with typos, and they'll send it out with typos or spelling errors, or even in a blog post specifically, like what you did. And okay, so for you, you're lucky your husband caught it and said something. Typically, there's always somebody in your audience that corrects you and puts it in the comments. And what they found is it got them more engagement, because there's always that one person. And if you look at like the personality charts or behavioral charts, there's 14% of the population that have that analytical mind that need to see something perfect and will correct you. And we're like, thank you. You could be my proofreader. You could be my editor. So they get acknowledged. They comment. They don't hate you for it. They don't leave. They're like, oh, she's stupid. No, they took the time to correct you. That means they like you, and they're just going to fix your errors. And it helps for more engagement. And fortunately, in this disc profile, over 40% of the population don't care. They want real. They want the real connection, the real human connection. And that's part of what you do. And it looks like Rigor is here. Aloha from Jersey, Wildwood. Actually, David is from the East Coast area as well. So we've got a whole East Coast connection from Miami all the way up to Jersey. Glad you're here, Rigor. And I'm assuming you mentioned a name and you're tagging him because he needs to be joining the show. So that's fantastic. Most people watch me on Facebook Live, but if you want to be my bestie, go over to the YouTube video that I put in the link because we're growing that. It's a new channel. And that way you could watch it and comment there. But Ines, you knew me when I had the old channel, and it's funny because I'm like, as I wanted to revive blogging and revive doing more YouTube videos, I'm like, do I use that one? Because my goodness, the technology back in 2006 and the cameras that we were forced to use, our iPhone is better than the professional camcorders back then. So talk a little bit about what it was like doing video marketing in 2006 and what is it 10, 15 years later? And when did you start? Because I think I met you in 2006, but when did you actually start?
So I got licensed, like I said, at the end of 2004. Okay. And I would say less than a year within getting my licenses when I started thinking like social media. I mean, my Twitter handle is Ines. So
yes.
So that's like a 4-letter word.
Yeah, that made you like a true pioneer when you can get your name back then. Now people have to come up with some number to put there, but yeah.
So funny enough, I think I had a flip cam.
Yes.
So that's how we were doing video. Then one piece of advice that I'll give: don't get too complicated with like technology and getting your systems to be too complex, because what happened, like especially with my mojito reviews, we would do mojito reviews impromptu in restaurants. It's not like it was ever planned. So it was my husband and I in the videos, and we had a flip cam. Then the sound wasn't great, or the light wasn't great, or there was too much background noise. So the equipment just kept getting more and more complicated. We started with a regular mic, then we went to lavaliers, then we had a light, then it was like, oh my God, then everybody's like looking while you're trying to have dinner because you have all this equipment just at dinner time. Yeah. And then equipment got so complex that I stopped kind of doing the videos, the mojito reviews. And then one day I was like, why? Let's just go back and simplify life, So what if the video is a little bit dark? So if you go into my YouTube channel, you're going to see like dark mojito review of things. We're like in the Miami River, on the boat, wherever it is. And they're fun, they're short. It doesn't matter, the equipment, we were keeping it real. And then I learned that a really nice balance of hiring professionals for the right videos. So it's not like I always kept them raw and unfiltered. Sometimes I would, for great properties like the sexy property that David just sold, I would hire a professional videographer, and we would do a really nice different type of storyline behind that sale. So it wasn't always me in the camera. It was always about trying to strategize correctly on the audience. And I always focused on not only what's the audience for Miamism, but what's the audience for the particular property that I'm selling. So I was able to do that from the very early stages of social media. So that was really cool. And for you to get credit, I mean, the secrets of online persuasion. Hello, that's an amazing book.
Well, thank you.
So those
talk about a historic book. I think I have it on the shelf somewhere, but I'm attached, so I can't grab it. Yeah. So, we talked about tribal marketing, and I'm assuming that's what you're talking about.
That's exactly it. So, talking about tribes, who came up with the whole tribal marketing? It was you guys, 100%.
I think there was Seth Godin talked about it at the same time, and there was a college paper, a white paper from a college student. Those are the only 3 people that I ever saw anyone talking about tribal marketing back then. And it was like trying to convince people, I'm like, no, this is what you need to do. So this is what I love about you and highlighting your story and what you've done, is because you are the essence of tribal marketing. That's what you did, and that's how you got these leads. Tell me a little bit about when the leads came. And so first of all, if anyone's listening or just coming in, I'm introducing you to Ines. She was a realtor. She's still in the real estate space, but now she trains other realtors. I'll have you talk a little bit about what you're doing now so people see the transition, but she gets 80% of her leads from online marketing, from videos, from her blog, from social media. So tell us the progression, Ines, about when you got that lead. Was it in your inbox? Was it as a comment? Um,
It was
how did that process take place?
it was actually super different because it depended on which platform I was using.
Mm-hmm.
So early on, the strategy was that Miamism was going to be the hub, right? Things change, and that's the beauty. Like when you've been at this for so long, look at the evolution of Twitter in the last 15 years. What Facebook has done in the last 15 years. So it's about, number one, being able to identify those changes, being able to read the social metaphors and how to behave in all the different platforms. One of the things that I always hated is that person that would create, content for Facebook, and then they would just syndicate to all the platforms with the same message. And I would always go, no, that's not normal. It's we speak differently in Twitter that we speak in Instagram, and we speak differently in Facebook. So the message needs to change. And it's not, how long does it take you? It's going to take you, an additional 10 minutes. It's like you're trying to simplify your life, but you're doing it wrong by trying to automate something that should. And by the way, yeah, you can automate it, but with the right message. Right. I was never into automation for the record.
Same here.
So everything that you saw was hand done by me. So
same here, Ines. I've always, and again, I know there's some people that have a whole platform on robots and chat robots. I personally have always held that position, and still for 20 years later, I've done everything personally, or at least by hand, right? It's never been a robot, because I feel like you could off-put someone more and do more harm than taking a little bit of extra time to make those personal connections in their DMs. Because think about it, right? Like when people did, again, old-fashioned marketing where they had to have face-to-face, belly-to-belly networking events that we're not allowed to have anymore, or pick up the phone and call. This is kind of weird to pick up like the phone now and touch it, right? But people would call people, and that took a lot of time. So to me, dropping something in a DM takes no more time than a personal phone call. In fact, I think it's easier, right? So talk a little bit about those things, where I think there's still a mindset of people either sticking with the old-fashioned ways of meeting people, and they think, oh my gosh, how am I going to get any new business because I can't network anymore? I can't meet people face-to-face, or the networking events that I used to get clients are no longer in existence, at least for the next foreseeable 3 months, 6 months, is it a year, right? People are talking about no live events happening until 2021. So if that's the case, how can you encourage them that it's okay? You've been doing it way before it was a fad. And the other thing you've been doing is, as a realtor, you were doing virtual open houses way before it's now popular. So talk a little bit about the virtual houses as well.
So this is funny because I was president of our local, which is the biggest realtor association in the country, Miami Realtors, last year in 2019. So I was residential president. And so they called me to to speak in webinars and things, especially after COVID-19. So one of the classes they asked me to teach was on virtual open houses. So this whole concept of, this is a new concept. So when I start giving the class, I tell them, by the way, I've been doing these for over 8 years. Yeah. And they're like, what? So the whole thing is, you know what? You need to listen to cues, number one. So I had a scare in an open house with some weirdo that walked in, and I didn't feel comfortable. Then I would go out of my way to have 2 or 3 people in that open house. Then I was like, what's the point of an open house, number one? So to understand this. So if I'm working with listings only, and I don't need to pick up buyers in an open house. So what am I going to do? I'm going to do something different to try to attract more sellers, to see that I'm using technology and I'm using other tools to attract other sellers, because that's ultimately my goal. So I started using Periscope for example. I remember I had a rooftop listing on Lincoln Road, and I said, let me test this. So I grabbed a couple of hashtags. I went on Twitter because I have a large Twitter following. I connected Periscope on the spot, and I started, take a look at the view, take a look at this thing. I looked down, I had 1,000 people from all over the world. I was like, what? Maybe I'm onto something here. This is insane. Yeah. If I'm in an open house for 2 hours, I'm lucky if I have 3 people walk in.
Yes. Can you imagine if you had 1,000 people in an actual open house? So people would freak out.
No. And this is like, I would ask them, where are you watching from? Italy. Russia. Some people didn't even speak English. I was like butchering the language and different things. I was like, this is amazing. So maybe there's something that I should look into it.
Yeah.
So then the whole concept of, listen, when you do an open house correctly, you plan it in advance. So why don't I plan a virtual open house in advance, the same way that you do these shows, to show people the property live and show the property unfiltered? Because remember, as realtors, we hire these amazing photographers and we show properties at the best light with weird angles. So I was like, what is better than getting, listen, my phone, I'm not talking equipment, guys, my phone, plan it in advance. I'm walking around and I'm like opening drawers. Look how ugly this is. Look how great this is. Using senses. Oh, you can't smell this flower, but oh my God, if you could smell it, if you were here. So trying to use senses to get a feel for the property was so different.
Yeah.
And so and I hate to say this because it makes me feel like I'm being insensitive and not empathetic at all. When I was home behind a screen during this whole thing and real estate was essential, I felt at home. This is my medium. This is how I feel comfortable.
Yes.
And I can speak to clients, and I've been speaking to clients through my computer screen for years.
Yes.
I have sold properties where I haven't ever met the buyer or the seller.
Wow.
Okay, this is crazy, from all over the world. So does this work? Absolutely. Can you reach the right audience? And guess what? And this is the thing that people don't understand. My audience is different than your audience. That's just bizarre.
Yes.
But I'm going to attract a different crowd, a different buyer seller than someone else will, than David will with whatever marketing he's doing.
Yeah. And that's because, again, it's personality marketing, right? So it's the same thing that in person, we wind up connecting to one person versus another person, and why we like this person and really don't like that person. That person's not a bad person. We just don't jive with them, right? So, and getting across that, get your real self across in camera, that's the most important thing, because some people are going to like you, some people are not going to. Who cares about the people who don't like you? You just want to attract the people that you are going to connect with, that you are going to have that same energy. And Rigor is remembering Periscope. Apparently he is also a pioneer, and he's asking if anyone remembers Chocolate Johnny from Periscope. If you do, drop that in the comments, and don't feel bad that it'll make you feel old, because we're all in the same camp here. And as you were mentioning the book while you were on solo, I unplugged myself to go get it off but this is the book that you grabbed, right? It has my old last name. So I don't recommend anyone going to Amazon and buying it, because things have updated, but most of the stuff in here, we try to stay away from the technology. So Twitter Revolution is completely outdated, because we talked a lot about the technology and how to tweet and how to do some of these things and all these apps. This was primarily Secrets of Online Persuasion, specifically targeting tribal marketing, the psychology of marketing. And talking a bit about video as well, really before YouTube took off. But if you are watching this and you're saying, oh, I want to check out that book, don't go to Amazon and buy it. Don't go anywhere to buy it, because you'll get an old version. Just put a comment in there, and then we'll connect via DM, and I will get you an e-version of the up-to-date most important things, because you brought out a historic book, Ines, and we might as well make sure anyone watching this get that version, because hopefully more people will apply those types of principles, will apply the things that you're talking about and get it right, versus like, we don't have time to get it wrong right now. Everyone's forced to do business. Everyone's forced to meet people online. We don't have the time to get it wrong. And that's why I'm really appreciative of you coming in and sharing some of your tips and your secrets of the things that you did. I love that you show houses real and raw, right? Like, hey, here you go. And bringing in the senses and showing the flowers. Like, these are all really, really good tips. Actually, someone has here. Oh, Rigor. Yes, the whole quarantine thing. I was already used to live streams and coordinating with others from working at home for decades. Yeah. So this is the same thing that Ines is talking about. This is where we feel at home. We've been doing virtual events. We've been doing virtual webinars for it's been almost two decades. And all I can say is the technology is so much easier to work with now. And like you said, you had a flip cam. I think I still have one in the garage, like, and I'm going to bring it out one day to be like, look, kids, this is what we had to deal with. Now we've got these really super high professional, 3-camera iPhone, which is incredible. When you go live now, Ines, tell us some of the tips that you use when you go live.
So when I'm planning something in advance, I make sure that I have good Wi-Fi. Number one, that's key. If I'm trying a new technology, I just make sure I try it, I test it before I do it when I go live, because you know how things just can go like wrong at the last minute. When
like right before the show, we couldn't get the camera to work.
That's it. That's exactly
it. Happen all the time, so it's a really good idea to do a test. I like that.
Yeah, I also test the reach of the Wi-Fi, because I like to go outside. So if I'm selling a house, I'm not just showing them the property. I'm going outside to the garden. I'm going to the front. So I'm showing them context to the property. If I'm showing a condo, it becomes actually a little bit more challenging, because in obviously the balcony is easy. You can go to the balcony for views, but the common areas, you're going to break, that stream. So then I'm ready. I'm prepared to show them pictures of common areas, or maybe some short videos that I may have done ahead of time.
That's awesome.
I actually have a really good friend from San Francisco that said to me, there's something to be said about, how Ines looks at properties through my architectural eye. So at the beginning of this year, I was like, you know what? He's onto something here. I love what he has to say. Because, for example, anytime there's an architecturally significant building that I start blogging about in Miami, and that's where my passion shows. Those are the blog posts that get picked up by Forbes, the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal. So one of them was Frank Gehry, the New World Symphony. And before they were opening the building, I was writing about the Gehryfication of the building. So I would take pictures and I would write about it. They reached out to me and said, do you want to come see the property? So here I am. If I can give you, like, imagine this is the wood railing, and I'm like touching the railing, and I'm like, this is so like, so he was saying, I'd love to see that. I'd love to see you saying, this is Pecky Cypress wood, or how I go down to the floor and touch the floor and I see the finishes, and this is so beautiful, and I'm detailing it. He goes, I would love to see video of that. So that's my goal. So there's always an evolution of what I do and what I'm going to do next. So it's improving that YouTube experience and trying to get someone to chase me around looking at real estate. So that would be a lot of fun.
I love that. Again, it's you're interacting. You're interacting and you're touching the surfaces and you're touching the items, which helps people feel like they're at the end of the day, they're living vicariously through you. So when you're filming, they feel like they're in your shoes. So the more you can do things that they would do, the better. And that's really innovative. And I think that's why you've always been willing to share your secrets, Ines, is because you're constantly doing something different. You're constantly evolving. You're constantly doing something different.
I try anyway.
Yeah. And again, speaking of like tech happening, I have this this is the home studio office. So I have the ring lights, but like outside daylight tends to change based on, in La Jolla, like you have cloud cover and then you don't, all of a sudden sunshine. So I constantly am changing, like I was seeing the light changing. So I thought, oh, let me shut off the light above because it was giving me more of an orange look. And I went to go turn the dimmer down and it broke off. So that'll just encourage you that like on set, on production, live, like things will happen. Now, fortunately, I wasn't on camera, but if it does, and I'm sure things like that have happened to you, you roll with it. So give some advice for people that like when tech glitches happen, how do you roll with it? And how has that been perceived by your potential fans and clients?
So I can tell you, at first, I would have been mortified 15 years ago. Today, you kind of laugh at yourself. Yeah. I think there's something to be said. And again, we talked about being real. These things happen. So I'll make a joke out of it. I'll give you, I was walking into this $4.5 million property doing a live stream. And I said, sorry if my video is shaking because I didn't bring any equipment. I didn't bring my gimlet. I said gimlet instead of gimbal. And then I go, did I just say gimlet? Am I drinking alcohol in the middle of the day? So
we know.
So it's just, you know what?
We know your vice.
So it's fine. It's laugh at yourself. And here's what it is. And I think we can go into the mojitos with this one.
Oh, good.
The fear of being identified with something that's not, oh my God, that's not professional. So there's a fear because we've been taught
Yes.
that mistakes are not allowed. You have to be perfect. And once you let that go and you realize that it's the complete opposite. So here's the gist. I think it was, I was in a conference in New York, and there was Sonia Simone from Copy Blogger. She said something to me that has resonated forever. She said to be able to attract like-minded people that you love working with, especially when you're writing, obviously it's Copy Blogger, so it's writing, not so much. But she said, write as if you're writing an email to your favorite client. I mentioned this briefly before. So then all of a sudden I go back and I go, okay, what was this client that I absolutely loved working with? So then my blog post would be like an email to them about a particular subject. All of a sudden it was magic. All of a sudden I started getting calls from more and more of those people. So one piece of advice is, if you don't want to work with foreclosures, don't write about foreclosures. Don't do videos about foreclosures. So don't do videos about the business you don't want. Okay. Brilliant. And then you go to the reality of who you are and your mistakes. So when I was testing the whole mojito marketing thing, I was like, being associated with an alcoholic beverage is not professional. And then I go, wait a minute. If you're offended because I'm drinking a mojito, I don't want to do business with you.
Right. My Aussie friends won't do business with people who don't have a drink. They just won't. So like for them, professionalism is that you have to have a drink with them, and they judge you if you don't drink. So talk about conflicting values. So people will judge you no matter what you do. Whether you drink, you'll get judged. If you don't drink, you'll get judged. And I'll put my glitch down here. Right. So just be yourself. You gotta be yourself. David said this earlier, I think here. We're gonna bring his comment back up. Like being yourself and attracting the people that you love doing business with. Like that's what it is all about. And that's what you're talking about, Ines, is where now it's not work. You're just having fun. And then you can go have a drink with a potential client or a client you just sold something to or for. So talk a little bit about the mojito branding, because I love that. Again, I think you were doing that when we were judging the competition, and we're like, wow, she's edgy. She's taking that step of not taking off the corporate branding, putting the jacket aside and saying, hey, this is me. Let's be real. And then you attract people that are like you. So tell us what you did with that.
I had clients bring me rum. You know, I hadn't done it before. This is how cool that was.
Those are great clients.
Yeah, that was like the coolest thing ever. So, you know, when I started blogging, they teach you about SEO, right? So then all of a sudden you're trying to be super technical on keywords and what I need to do and this and that. So at the time, I searched Google for what is the most searched key term in the time, and mojito was the word. So this was a pure test. So I went, I'm from Venezuela, so I'm not Cuban. So the mojito people are like, oh, you're Cuban. We love Cubans, obviously, because we're in Miami.
But that's why I thought you were Cuban. It's a mojito.
So I told my husband, put on a guayabera. Let's do with our flip cam, by the way, because it was a great video. Let's do a video of you making a mojito. So we did this video, and it got really great traction. So I'm like, okay, what do we do next? You know, because it got great traction. So then all of a sudden it became, let's go to a restaurant. Let's do it live at a restaurant and see what comes from it. And obviously it wasn't going to be live streamed. We would film it and then come back and put it on YouTube, whatever it was. But it took off. It was really, really insane, to the point where people from all over the United States were like sending us recipes, or they were doing their own reviews and sending them to us for us to post. I
got that engagement. That was that participation part. I love this.
It was completely not related to real estate, which was really cool, but it was an icebreaker.
Yes.
Right? So the icebreaker was, what do we have in common that we both like? That we can have conversation that's not about business, you know, that makes us real.
Yes. And that's what we do in real life. So why we forgo that online, I don't know why. So this is great. Keep going. This is great.
So I got invited to speak in Spain. So I'm traveling to Spain to speak on using social media and blogging. And while I'm up on stage, this man runs over with 2 bottles of rum. Yes. He was like, oh, you're mojitos. So mojitos became our social object. It boils
Yeah.
down to that.
Yes.
And it was our icebreaker. It was, and here's what I achieved, which was really cool about doing the videos and the mojito reviews, is that it wasn't so much about me and it wasn't so much about the mojito, believe it or not. It was I'm giving love to the restaurant that I'm reviewing.
Yep.
I'm showing Miami. I'm showing Miami lifestyle.
Yes. 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 That's it.
I'm showing my mannerisms, my whatever, my real self. But most of all, I was giving love to the restaurant, which was really cool. So it got to a point where Rick and I would walk into a restaurant and like the manager would come out and like, are you Miamism? Are you doing a mojito review? It was the coolest thing.
Yeah.
So it was like, oh my God, this thing is a little on the nut side. How people are recognizing us for mojitos, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah. And I think something important to note right here for those of you eavesdropping on our little catch-up chat with Ines, met her 15, 16 years ago, that what she's talking about here is being real, number one, but the second part of it is edgy, being yourself and connecting with people beyond your business. So whether you're a realtor, whether you're a mortgage broker, a professional attorney, whatever it is that you do, small business owner, stop talking about just your business, trying to be so professional in every video, and ask yourself the question, number one, how can I be different? How can I be original? How can I not be boring? I'm a big Tony Robbins coach trainer, so you typically don't ask questions that start with not. But in this case, we want you to ask, how can I not be boring? And if you can't answer that question with the topic that you're going to talk about in that every video, right, then you're doing something wrong, or you're not doing something that's going to get the engagement, that's going to get the leads, that's going to get you the connection. Because what Ines is talking about here is connecting with people, real people. And what I find is, so we're not talking politics right now, but just bringing up politics or political conversations. This is some of the things that people have, they wonder about and they ask about. And here's the thing. Yes, if you mention what your politics are, not just like voting as well, but like your value system, and where it gets political and there's a belief that you have that some people don't agree with, yes, you will polarize those people. Yes, you will lose those people. But the people that you will attract like a magnet is so much more powerful because they believe like you believe like them. And when people think you believe like them, they like you better, they trust you better, and they think you're smarter. So yes,
I'm gonna add something to that that's crazy.
Yeah,
algorithm,
good.
For example. So algorithm changes in platforms scare the crap out of everybody, right? So I'll do on Instagram. So all of a sudden I have this following that I have grown organically for so many years because I'm visual. I'm an architect. I like pretty pictures. So I have 14,000 followers on Instagram that are grown organically. And I go from getting 1,500 likes to 200 if I'm lucky.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, I remember that.
But then all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? This is whatever. Then you start trying to say, oh, maybe I should buy someone to help me or hire another influencer or blah, blah, blah. And here's the reality of it. Numbers are numbers, right? So to me, is that engagement factor. So what if, okay, Instagram is completely controlling who they show my picture to. I've grown to terms with that.
Yeah.
But if I can have enough engagement with those 200 people, that's okay. It's not. So what are the 1,500 likes that I was getting with that engagement to now that I'm getting whatever, the 200 likes.
Yeah.
So don't think about numbers. Numbers are nuts. So that's why, like, if you get too boggled down in, oh, but I don't have perfection to get started. No. Did I have perfect equipment when I did my first mojito review? Absolutely not. It's just crazy. Now I do everything through my phone. Everything's through here. I don't even carry equipment anymore.
Yes. Yeah. So a couple things that you said there, and I'm so glad you brought that up because that's one of the other questions that I get when I consult with people is they're like, help me go viral, help me get thousands. Like, you don't need thousands. You don't need thousands. I'm going to repeat that over and over and over again. You need a handful. You need 100 of people that pay attention to you. If you look at the 100 number as the target, so here's the other thing, beautiful thing. So David is a perfect example. He's just started his YouTube channel. He doesn't really promote it. He's done zero advertising. He just puts it up there. And then sometimes he shares it with his friends, or he'll send a link. Hey, go watch this video. He has maybe 60 subscribers now. So by the way, I'm going to put a link in his video. We're going to give him some shout out because he showed up today live, but let's get him 100, please, because then he can customize his channel. But here's the thing. Here's his beautiful. He just sold a $1.5 million place, one of the sexiest real estate. He just got a lead from his YouTube video. Someone reached out to him and they're like, hey, I've been following you for a few months now. And few is probably the past 6 months. And they want him to look for specific property. So here's a lead that just turned into a client, and he has 60 something subscribers on YouTube. That's it. And he got this lead directly from YouTube without even having 100. And then the other beautiful thing about David's channel is he's like you in the Miamism, where he just is himself. He has these colloquialisms that I'm like, when I'm in editing, I'm like, he said this, I don't know how to, he's like, no, that's what I say. It's my expression. I'm like, okay, we're leaving that in. So then when people meet him, right, when he's doing deals with them, it's the same person. But what I love about it is with the 60 something subscribers, he has like 236 views on one of his videos. He does like these San Diego updates. I'm like, you have like 3-4 times the views than you have subscribers. That means people are watching. He's being found in organic search. He's being shown. People are sharing that specific video. They like it, right? And once you have a video that people like, more people wind up seeing it. Like you were talking about with Instagram, right? You don't have to have the thousands of Instagram. You don't have thousands on either, right? YouTube or Instagram, and yet 80% of your leads are coming from them. I don't even know if you count how many subscribers. And by the way, Ines, do you even remember subscribers back when we started YouTube? Like, I don't think that was a thing.
It wasn't.
Right? Like, I don't know when it became a thing. All I know is I came back to YouTube to go, all right, I'm going to start YouTubing again. And I'm like, where's this whole subscriber thing come from? Like, what the heck?
It was funny. I was in a panel here in Miami that was like a social media day. Mm-hmm. And it's like guru, because I'm just little old me.
Getting results, getting 80% of my leads. Yeah.
The guru was talking about automation and the amount of followers and this and this and that. And then he turned around and he said, how many followers do you have in Twitter? I was like, I don't know. I don't care. Yep. You know, it's just, that's not the point. The point here is what you're doing with what you have. And that's where the connection comes. Yep. So we started disagreeing, which makes a panel a lot of fun, by the way.
Love that. I love this. This is why I love you, Ines, because I would be doing the same thing. I'm like, but do they really matter? Yeah.
No. So we were disagreeing every time. The moderator was having a panic attack. When we were done with it, the guy comes up to me, gives me a hug, and says, dude, you were so cool. I'm going to interview you in one of my shows, and we've become really close. So this is the thing. Like, difference of opinions are okay.
Yes.
I'm going to do one piece of advice that I think it hasn't been easy for me to figure out throughout the years, but this is a formula. This is magic formula. You need to give in order to receive. Think about this, guys. This is key. So when you're doing anything in social media, I know that Deb was talking about, oh, look at me, whatever, on my business, my followers, whatever it is. No, I'm always constantly thinking of whose business can I help? Who can I give love to? So I figured it out when I did the Mojito reviews that, I was giving love to the restaurant. I was promoting that restaurant and the owner. And then I got a hint of going to the smaller restaurant and in mom and pop shops and giving them reviews in another way was very appreciated. So everything I do, I'm always thinking of how can I help somebody else? How can I help some business in some way using what I've achieved in social media today to help their business as well. And my business has done better than ever the times that I give and help other businesses.
Yes. So important. So I think, and that's great, Ines, where I think every time someone says, the numbers, right? Or focuses on the numbers, I think that's what I'm going to bring up. I'm going to be like, how about we switch that mentality to, what can you give? How can you add value to the people? And again, connect. And that's what you've done masterfully. And we have Derek, remember Derek again from Pioneer Days, saying hello. So great to see two of my favorite people chatting. Love you, Derek. I think it was like Blog World or something where I
Oh
probably
my
saw him
God.
last.
Derek is one of my favorite people in the whole wide world. I swear to God. And he gives like the best interviews. He did like the 150. He's going to correct us.
Yeah, that's good.
Interviews, whatever. He's awesome.
Yeah, agree. I remember when he did those interviews. I remember them. And again, they were like short and quick. He was the master of that again, really in the early days, right? Walking around going, hey, can you give me your 1 minute thing? I think, and if I'm remembering correctly, I remember him asking something about like family and friends and connecting on social. I'm like, I don't like my family connecting me on social. Then they know my business and then they call me and I'm like, I'm on social, I'm working. This is work for me. For them, it's social. 100 interviews at South by. Yeah. Yeah. We knew he would know the exact number.
Yeah.
And that's an example too of something that you can do is going and interviewing the experts, going and interviewing people. So you don't even have to create content. So yeah, that's good lessons. Any final really, really powerful tips of perhaps a question I haven't asked you yet, Ines, that will help people grow their audience?
You know what? I think if you ask me how many like blog designers I've hired in the 15, 16 years, a lot. Okay. They've all failed like horribly. And what has kept me alive is consistency.
Oh, wow. That's powerful. Yes.
So that if you think about.
You're the master of consistency, can I just say? Because I went to your YouTube channel, like, she has not stopped in 16 years. I don't even know how you did that. Bravo.
Yeah. No. And it's pretty amazing because if you think about, let's just give the number 15 years. Mm-hmm. I post 3 to 5 blog posts a week. Wow. For the last 15 years.
Oh my God.
So consistency is insane. So the library of content I have now, it's not that difficult. I have a schedule. I know which day I post what, but then I also repeat, because I have a library of content. So all my architectural posts, I can repeat. I'm true to the blog where I put originally published at the end. So they know it's like kind of rerun of the blog post.
Right.
People grab it and I just put like a preface, like where I change it up a little bit at the beginning. Oh, time has changed. I wrote this 10 years ago. Look what has happened.
Yeah.
So I reuse my content, which is super cool. I just reused a blooper video that I did for mojito reviews. Whereas when I go to the restaurant and I grab the cup and I'm like, I taste the mojito, I'm like,
oh, I thought you spilt it. That's a great blooper. I would keep that in. I'd start the video with that.
And then I don't want to give the restaurant like that love. So I'll go,
right.
Okay. Don't order the mojito here, but their burgers are fantastic.
You find something positive. Yeah. That's a bad mojito if you can't even finish it. Like,
there's
wow.
Plenty of those. I tell you, plenty of those.
I think one of the most important secrets that maybe I remember being somewhere, and I think it was in Miami. It might have been the time that I met you in person, but I remember he said something about the shake. So what is the secret of the best mojito that you know? How do you make the best mojito? Is it the amount of shakes? Because he said it was like certain amount of shakes that he's blending all the mints within it and infusing it. So I don't know. Is that the secret? No, it's not the secret.
It's not. I think it's the amount of mint.
I think you said the amount of rum.
Rum.
The amount of mint. So how much is the right amount of mint?
You know what? The whole thing about mint is that's what hides the flavor of like a strong rum. So that's actually, they're dangerous. They can be super dangerous because they're sweet. So the simple syrup mixed with the rum and how you muddle. So there's some mixologists that don't like to muddle. Now it's turning into like a mojito.
Yes. This might be the most important part of our interview here.
So some mixologists don't like to muddle the mint because they say it breaks it.
Yeah,
so
don't muddle the mint. Don't muddle the mint.
Tap the mint so the aroma. No, that's BS. I like to muddle the mint. Muddle the mint. And that's the trick from it. And don't be afraid to put a lot of it in it.
So yes, muddle the mint.
Yes, muddle.
2 thumbs to muddle the mint. Okay. Muddle the mint. I feel like there's an analogy here somewhere with social media and vlogging. So whoever's watching this, if you're getting the analogy as we wrap up, go ahead and drop it in the comments, because I feel like you're going to have the aha moment, because you'll have the advantage of extra time to think about what's the analogy of muddling the mint. The other thing that I like is what you said about the amount of mint, right? It's not thousands of mint pieces, right? Thousands of fans and followers. It's the right amount of mint. I like that.
And you have to find the right amount that works for you.
That's right. And find the perfect mint that you match with.
Absolutely.
You're the rum, the clients are the mint, and muddle them together, and it's the perfect mojito. And that's a great note to end this wonderful conversation, catching up with my wonderful friend. I'm going to call her my friend, Ines. I think it's funny how people are like, well, are you friends if you don't meet in real life or you don't get together? Yes. Meeting people online is a real connection and a real friendship. And this is probably a 16-year-old friendship. So it's lovely to see you. My good dear friend, not old friend, because we're going to stay forever young. This is a phenomenal catch up, and I'm gonna have you on as a follow up, because I feel like there's going to be a lot of questions, especially from realtors, as far as some of the other tricks of the trade that you share. And congratulations on your upward mobility in Miami and what you've done and all of the leads.
Thank you.
It's phenomenal.
You know what? Thank you for having me. You can have me anytime. I love you. Like I said, I owe that epiphany that I had on this thing, and you validating it. So thank you. We need more people like you that are recognizing, the innovation and everything that's coming our way and being creative with it. So thank you.
You were doing it right from the beginning in 2006. So congratulations for being a pioneer. Congratulations to any of you who are watching as a pioneer. Derek is one of those people, and he gets the last word here. Thank you so much, Deb and Ines. Thank you, Derek, and love you, Ines. I'm so glad you came and we were able to catch up live and people got to eavesdrop on all of your secrets.
Awesome. Have a fantastic rest of the week.
You too. Aloha.